Welcome to Body and Mind. Today we're going to talk about two movies which talks about self-realization, awakening. The first movie is Sreekrishna Parunthu, which is a Malayalam movie, and the second movie is a Korean movie, which is Spring, Summer, Fall, and Winter. Now, both of these movies shows us the path of enlightenment, but the obstacles that they face during this path of awakening or self-realization. Now, first let's talk about summer, fall, winter, and spring. So in this movie, what happens is there's a master and a disciple who live in an isolated place. They live in the mountains. It's all surrounded by mountains, and there is this lake, and there is this temple, and they live in that temple. And this movie shows about this disciple being a small child, how he grows up being enlightened. So in this process of getting enlightened, he initially tortures animals, and then he falls into love with a girl, and after falling into the sexual desires, the consequences that he faces with that, and the consequences he faces with the real world, and comes back to the place again. And then he gets enlightened after going through all the obstacles, and how he realizes and how he gets self-realized. And that's the first movie. And the second movie is a Malayalam movie. It's Sreekrishna Parunthu. This movie is about a person who is rich, and he has a lot of girls, and he involves with drugs, and he is having a lavish life. But his family, they are healers. So in order for them to become a healer, they have to follow some rules. That means they have to not indulge in sex, they have to purify themselves, and they have to have a clear mind. So this is the time for this person who actually have to step up and be a healer. Now he becomes a healer, and he avoids women, and he purifies himself, and he learns all the techniques and the process to become a healer, and he becomes a healer. But in between, what happens is he indulges in sex, which means that he thinks that he can be a healer, at the same time he can also indulge in sex and all the other activities. But what happens is those both don't go along. Becoming a healer or a powerful person, you need a lot of sacrifices to become that healer. His mom tells, either you become a healer or you go and get married and have kids and go in that path. So he says that, no, I want both. But at the end, he dies because he cannot blend the sexual desires that he has along with becoming a healer or becoming this person who is purified. He tries to blend in both, and he suffers and he dies. So both of the story gives us a significant, interesting viewpoint, which tells us that you cannot indulge sexual desires and sexual activities with awakening. You cannot blend both together. You have to truly go through the path of sexual desires, real world scenarios, pay all the dues. That means the karma, face all the actions that you have taken, and the karma that you build up, you have to go through everything, come out of it, and then you go and get awakened, or you have a self-realization after you go through everything. You cannot blend both together. And this is what both of these movies say. In the second movie, Sreekrishna Parunthu, that person tries to blend in the sexual desires along with getting a powerful healer, which this healer is also an enlightened person or awakened person. He tries to blend in both, but you cannot blend in both. This is a separate path and this is a separate path. If you try to blend in both, it doesn't work. And that's what both of these movies says. In order for you to get self-realized, you need to go through all the obstacles, face all the challenges, and truly understand that there is nothing over there. There's nothing truly coming out of that. It's only more problems, more challenges, and more possession. Like, you want to possess this person, a relationship, kids, and all these things grow up as you gradually get into that path. And that path cannot go with this path. So you need to be true to yourself. There's nothing wrong with both the paths. But in order for you to try to blend it, it might not work. At a certain point, you need to realize that this both won't blend together. That's what the movie shows us, and that's what I want to share. And one more important point I want to say, as I always say, is that stay true. As in that second movie, Sreekrishna Parunthu, where he becomes a healer, he gets self-realized, but he has sexual desires. He was weak at a certain point and he comes back. A lot of people might be in that situation. A lot of people might be in a real world situation where they face real consequences and they are true in that real scenario, and they go through everything and they understand it thoroughly, and they have no more desire in that world of desires or sex or any position, because they understand, they have gone through everything, and then they go into this path of self-realization where these things, when they come into his mind, it won't bother him because he has already gone through that, and he understands there's nothing there, because he was true when he was going through the sexual desires. He was truly in love. He was truly passionate about possession. And at a certain point, he realizes there's nothing in it. And then he goes into this path where he wants to find something even more. The person who doesn't truly get involved with love or desires or possession and goes in this path of self-realization, these things are always going to bother him, because he hasn't been true to the external possession. He hasn't been true to the sexual desires that he has. He has just run away to be a awakened person. So these things will bother him, even though he's at a point where he's penance-ing or meditating. These things, the sexual desires, will bother him. So that's one more insight from these two movies. These two movies are really great, and I want to share that today. Hopefully this video helps you. Thank you, man. Namaste.